Hi, this is Dieter for SiteManager.io. In this video, I'm going to explain how you can code your own components with the front-end editor. Let's get started. Alright, so before we start with coding our own component, let's talk about the developer platform inside SiteManager. With the developer platform, you can code and get access to all the front-end code of the page and layout components of your website project. You can also tweak the setup and the page speed settings or add a cookie module to your website. You can also use the developer platform to integrate with third-party apps or your own application. This will be explained in later videos besides the crash course that we are recording right now. So there are two ways how you can start coding a component from scratch. The first is by using the developer page components tab right here and click add new on top of the list. The second way is simply by going to the plus button inside your website where you can add a section and select code your own. You give your component a name, for example header, and you have an option to use code only or attach it to the design engine of SiteManager. Now in this example we're going to attach it to the design editor, but if you want, you can create code only components that are not attached to the platform whatsoever. So we click create. Right now we've been redirected to the front-end editor where you can change the HTML, CSS and JavaScript of your component. You can also go to the settings where you can change a lot of properties, and you can even edit how your design editor looks by opening the full width tab right here where you can switch between the other components. And if you go to editor settings, you will be able to change your theme, your line, and even see how you can use the Emmet coding style when you are programming inside the editor. The first thing we want to do is add some HTML to our component. So we're going to do this by starting by adding a block to it. So you have two types of blocks. You have a default or a setup block. A setup block is a special type of block that will be explained in the advanced course. But for now, let's just keep the default block and let's call it a header block and click add. Right now you see that the editor is open with the style that I've selected in my settings, but you could have a white or a dark or a light theme, it doesn't matter. And you will see that the CMS options have been popped open as well, but we are not going to use them for now. So we're going to close this panel. And just like all developers do, we are going to start by adding some simple HTML to our block with a H1 saying hello world. When we click save, we can see the preview panel. We can click it open and we'll see that here our component with hello world is available on our website. Since we have chosen to code a new component for the design editor, you see that this dimensions are from the grid. So we are going to go back to our design engine by clicking on our logo right here and opening the design editor like this. And as in the previous video, we are going to change our settings from grid to flex, and we are going to center our header in the middle of the page. And we are going to add a little bit of padding to the top and bottom of our component like this. And when we are done, we simply click save and exit. To return to the code editor of any component, you simply go to the three dots right here when you hover over it and simply select code. And now we've been redirected to our code editor. Next up, we're going to add some CSS and JavaScript to our component. We're going to build a typewriter script, for example. So the first thing we want to do is add a little bit of CSS to our H1, and we're going to give it a special class called typewriter. We save our changes and then we select the CSS tab right here. We already have some CSS prepared that I'm simply going to paste right in here. We click save, and when we see the preview, you will see that the CSS changes have been applied to the component. What's really cool is that you can use the CSS classes or the color properties from the global style sheet inside the components that you built. So for example, when we go to the settings and click System Variables, you will see that we have a color variables tab right here. And when we open it, we can select the color from our palette. So for example, if we want the text to be this color, we simply copy it to the clipboard and paste it instead of blue. When we click Save Changes and the preview panel, you will see that the design engine color is now being used inside our CSS. Finally, we're going to add some JavaScript to our component. When we go to the JavaScript tab, we first have to activate our JavaScript because there's no JavaScript attached to the component as of this moment. So we click this button and now we can add some JavaScript here. We can also include our own libraries by adding the script with the source right here in the lib files section of the settings. These files will then be added to the website when they are rendered inside the platform and when the website is published, obviously. But right now we are just going to use and add some own JavaScript to our component. And once again, we have prepared some code right here. When we click Save and preview our panel, you will see that the text is now being typed when it's being loaded. And this is how you use HTML, CSS and JavaScript inside Site Manager to create components. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to show you how you can integrate your components with the CMS and how you can integrate even more with the design engine. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one.